Tell me first of all about the game. Tell me the new game that you've come up with.
Right, our best-selling game is called BrainBox, and it's at the top of the Amazon best-selling lists, and it's a visual memory game. And I tell you what, should we do a card together? We can do it over the phone.
Oh, brilliant!
Okay, so if you imagine a picture of a map of France.
Yeah.
And on that map, you've got where Paris is with a little red dot, and you've got some images, maybe the Arc de Triomphe or Three Baguettes or the surrounding countries. So you look at that card for 10 seconds, and then what you do, you roll a die, turn the card over, and have to answer a question based on the roll of the die. So question 2 may say, are the stripes of the flag horizontal or vertical? And if you get it right, you win the card. If you don't win the card, it gets put back into the actual box. So,
and the person with the biggest number of cards at the end of the whole thing is
the winner. And you can play for 5 minutes or 10 minutes. And what's great about this game is that a 7-year-old can play with a 77-year-old because it's not knowledge-based, it's visual-based. So it's really cool. And that's just one version with this BrainBox range. And that's what we called our world one. We have another one on inventions that have changed the world, or world history, or British history, or even have one on the maths curriculum for years 3 and 4, which teachers love. So, we have a lot of different versions of this particular game, and they're great fun.
I'm sure you've been asked this before, but how do you become a games developer, a board game developer?
Well, something's got to happen. And what happened with me, I had 2 things happening. The first thing was I was working in corporate life like a lot of your listeners, and I found that I wasn't spending very much time with my family. And so what I then decided to do was think about what I could do. And then I was driving home from the airport one day, and the M25, a big orbital roadway in England, and goodness gracious me, the traffic jam was so long, I started making words out of the letters on number plates. And then I thought, oh, hold on. And then I did animals, and then thought that was easy. Well, what about insects? What about? And I turned that into a game. So the 2 things is looking at having a product, and then looking at the opportunity around that. And that product was called Alpha Animals, based on the alphabet and animals. So it worked really, really well.
Is there much competition in the market to get board games? Because people see the success of the big games, the Monopoly and Scrabble and Trivial Pursuit and games like that have lasted for generations. And I'm sure, I would love to be the sort of person who designed a board game that was very successful. But the lazy part of me thinks, do you know what? They must all have been done at this stage. Surely there's nothing new.
Well, a couple of questions there. There's lots of stuff you can do that's new, but in terms of bringing it to market, was how easy is it? Was it the first thing you said? You're absolutely right. It is very, very difficult. And my view is, if you have an idea, there are really 3 things you have to do. The first is you need to get the product right. For example, with all of our games, before they're actually produced, we give samples to neighbours or to customers that we already have with questionnaires, and let them tell us what they think about it so we can make tweaks near the end. The second thing, if you're a games inventor and you came to me and I had an idea and you said, look, I've tested it, Gary, it's fantastic. What do I do next? I then say to you, look, if your spouse or your partner shares your enthusiasm and your passion, go for it full time. You can't do it at 9 o'clock at night after a really hard day at work. You've got to do it yourself. And the third thing I'd say is think globally. It's actually a bit easier now than it used to be, because you've got this great thing called the internet. So with a really, really cracking website, you can appear a lot larger than what you are. And the way we did it, and it's still very valid nowadays, is we went on to a lot of trade fairs overseas. So the British government are pretty good at helping with exports. And so we exhibited things like the American Toy Fair, the German Toy Fair. And that way you get distributors in the various countries who know that market to help you. So these BrainBox games, again, we have them in 25 different countries and 25 different languages with 25 different distributors, because they know those markets. I mean, we even sell them in Mandarin in China.
Wow.
And that was just by going to trade fairs in Hong Kong, finding somebody, or they approached us and we talked to them for a while, and now they're all over China, which is fantastic. And that's what we try and do.
But isn't this, as you call it, this great thing called the internet, isn't it killing the board game?
No, almost the opposite, because you can play a game on the internet very, very easily, but who plays a game on the internet? It's not really done as a family or a social group. It's usually done independently. Now, you can play games against strangers on the internet, I know, but if you want to play a game with your family, are you going to crowd round your PC or your mobile phone to play a game together? You're probably not. It's a tactile nature of it. And also, if you think of cross-generational, I mean, the 7-year-old will probably be really good at the internet game, but with the 77-year-old, but a board game where you can touch and feel something and tokens move around a board, there's something really special about that. And one of the things you alluded to before, why is Monopoly so popular? Well, that's one of the things. It has wonderfully tactile tokens.
But even Monopoly has got easier. You don't even have to do the sums anymore. Now you get a card with Monopoly, and you just, if you want to pay 1.4 million for a house, you just put the card in, type minus 1.4 million, and it pays it to another. You don't even have to add and subtract anymore. It's far too easy.
Yeah, but it depends where you're from, because if you there's a big games thing in Essen every year. You get 300,000 Germans turn up to a games fair. They do nothing but board games for 4 days, and there you can actually play all the games, but you have to sit for at least an hour to read the rules. And the Germans are very used to that. And they like that and they expect that. But in the UK, people want to really get on with it straight away. And so they don't want to have to spend ages and ages understanding how it plays. And I explained to you how BrainBox plays in probably about 9 seconds. So it's a very, very simple concept. And I think people like that. Now, the Monopoly thing, whether they should have reduced the adding and taking away, I perhaps somewhat agree with you in that response. But I'm not Hasbro, so I can't really judge what research they did on that.
What was your favourite board game when you were growing up?
Ooh, when I was growing up, I think I obviously played Monopoly, as probably all of your listeners have done over a certain age, and I liked a game called Scoop, which is a game about being a newspaper baron. It was a very, very clever game. But now, to be perfectly honest with you, I love our BrainBox games and I play them. And I did find a game in Germany, that one German game of the year 2 years ago called Quirkle. That's really cool as well. I like playing that.
How do you play that?
It's basically matching colours and shapes or using wooden tiles, which doesn't sound very glamorous, but it's pretty clever. The people who designed it have thought it through, and again, it can be played across generations as well. And I like that game, and I like the feel of the wooden tokens that they use as well. So we play that as a family as well.
What about Scrabble, Game of Life, all those kind of ones?
Yeah, it still sell very well. If you go on the Amazon top 10, you'll find Monopoly there, you'll find Scrabble, you'll find BrainBox, you'll find all of these ones there. Now, Scrabble, from a personal perspective, I don't like Scrabble as much as Monopoly, simply because my wife beats me. And she beats me so easily and so embarrassingly. But when I do my games, I vow that we won't have the cleverest person winning. We'll try and let everybody have a chance of winning.
And do you beat her then at your games?
No, she's actually pretty good at those as well. I'd beat her at chess, but she won't play me at chess. So, yeah, it depends. But she's pretty smart. In fact, she's smarter than me. But anyway, hopefully she's not listening to this. But yeah, she's much smarter than I am.
Gary, that's brilliant. Listen, thank you very much for your time. Apologies for being late, but that'll make a lovely piece for our Saturday magazine programme.
I tell you what might also be good, because you mentioned about somebody having an idea. We've got an inventors page on our website, which they could go to sort of get a link into how do they protect an idea and everything else. So, so if you just go on greenboardgames.com, so it's all a W's, greenboardgames.com, you can actually link into the inventors page and just have a look at it. Yes, we give you links to the British Toy and Hobby Association and the Patent Office and stuff like that. So it's quite cool.
Greenboardgames.com and go to the inventors page.
Yeah, absolutely.
Gary, thank you very much for your time.